Edinburgh, Scotland. Today, it's known as one of the most beautiful cities in the world, a place of stunning Gothic architecture, majestic castles, and rich cultural festivals. Millions of tourists walk its historic cobblestone streets every single year, completely unaware of what lies directly beneath their feet. Because right under the bustling pavements of the South Bridge, hidden in pitch-black darkness, lies a completely different city. A forgotten labyrinth of stone rooms, narrow alleys, and vaulted chambers that hasn't seen a single ray of sunlight in over 2 centuries. This is the Edinburgh Vaults, a place that went from a grand engineering marvel to one of the most horrific, disease-ridden subterranean slums in human history. A place where thousands of people lived, committed crimes, and died in total obscurity. Today we are descending into the dark. Welcome to StreetLore, and this is the secret history of Edinburgh's forgotten underworld. To understand how an entire world ended up underground, we have to travel back to the late 18th century. Edinburgh was suffocating. The city was overcrowded, trapped inside its ancient medieval walls. The wealthy elite wanted space, luxury, and a modern way to travel. The solution? Build massive bridges to expand the city. In 1785, construction began on the South Bridge. It was designed to span the Cowgate Valley, connecting the Old Town's High Street to the university quarters in the south. It opened with great pomp and celebration in 1788. To the average person walking across it, it didn't even look like a bridge. It looked like a grand shopping street, lined with high-end tenements, luxury shops, and bustling merchants. But the bridge wasn't just a flat surface. It was supported by 19 massive stone arches, and to maximize space, the city decided to enclose these arches, creating a massive multi-level underground complex of around 120 stone chambers. They called them the South Bridge Vaults. Initially, this was a brilliant real estate move. The upper levels of the vaults were rented out to the very merchants who owned the shops above. It was the perfect space for cobblers, taverns, smythes, and storage for expensive goods like wine, cloth, and grain. For the first few years, the vaults were the beating heart of Edinburgh's economy, but very quickly a fatal engineering flaw turned this dream into a living nightmare. The builders had rushed the project. They forgot one crucial thing: waterproofing. The South Bridge was built with porous stone, and the mortar began to crack. Every time it rained in Edinburgh, which was very often, water leaked straight through the roadway of the bridge down into the vaults. The air became thick, damp, and stagnant. Within just a few years, the luxury goods began to rot. The fine fabrics grew mold and the grain spoiled. By the early 1790s, the wealthy merchants had had enough. They packed up their things, abandoned the vaults, and moved back to the surface, leaving these cold, wet, dark stone chambers completely empty. Or so they thought.
As the rich left, the desperate moved in. By the turn of the 19th century, Edinburgh was flooded with a new wave of poor citizens, including thousands of Irish immigrants fleeing the Great Famine. They had no money, no jobs, and nowhere to go. The abandoned, pitch-black vaults beneath the South Bridge became their only refuge. What followed next can only be described as a subterranean hell. Imagine living in a space with absolutely no windows, no natural light, no ventilation. The only warmth came from small fires fueled by whatever trash people could find, filling the unventilated vaults with thick, choking smoke. There was no running water and absolutely no sanitation system. Human waste, garbage, and filth from the city above leaked down through the cracks, mixing with the damp mud on the vault floors. Up to 15 people would cram into a single, small stone chamber, sleeping on wet straw. Diseases like cholera, typhus, and tuberculosis spread like wildfire through the darkness. If you were born in the vaults during this era, your chances of surviving past childhood were brutally low. But disease wasn't the only threat. The vaults became a lawless underworld, completely untouched by the city police. Taverns, illegal gambling dens, and brothels operated in the shadows. It was a place where you could buy anything, hide from anyone, or disappear forever. And then there was the ultimate terror of 19th century Edinburgh, the body snatchers. At the time, Edinburgh University was a world-famous center for medical research, and professors paid top dollar for fresh human corpses to dissect in their anatomy classes. This led to the rise of the infamous serial killers, William Burke and William Hare. Local legends strongly suggest that Burke and Hare used the lawless, chaotic labyrinth of the South Bridge vaults as their hunting ground, targeting the helpless, forgotten residents of the underworld, or using the deep vaults to temporarily store the bodies of their victims before delivering them to the medical school. The vaults weren't just a slum anymore. They had become a tomb.
By the mid-1850s, the situation had become too horrific for the city to ignore. The smell coming up from the cracks in the pavement was unbearable, and the crime rate was a stain on Edinburgh's reputation. The authorities decided to take drastic action. They evicted everyone living in the underworld, but they didn't clean it up and they didn't repurpose it. Instead, they filled some chambers with tons of rubble and literally bricked up the entrances. They sealed the vaults, burying the dark history deep beneath the stone. And then, something incredible happened. The city forgot. For over 130 years, generation after generation of Edinburgh residents walked over the South Bridge, completely oblivious to the massive hollow labyrinth beneath their feet. The vaults became nothing more than an urban legend, a myth whispered by old historians. Until 1985, a Scottish rugby international named Norrie Rowan discovered a hidden tunnel in the cellar of his bar, which happened to be located next to the South Bridge. Curious, he broke through a brick wall and stepped directly into the past. He had rediscovered the lost vaults. When researchers entered the chambers for the first time, it was like a time capsule of human misery. They found old leather shoes, broken clay pipes, toy marbles belonging to children who lived in the dark, and heavy layers of soot still staining the stone arches from fires put out more than a century ago. Today, parts of the Edinburgh vaults are open to the public for guided tours, but many who enter claim that the dark history of this place didn't completely leave when the residents were evicted. In fact, the vaults are now widely considered to be one of the most haunted places on Earth. Tourists and guides frequently report sudden, unexplainable drops in temperature, the feeling of being watched, and the distinct sound of footsteps tracking them through the empty corridors. Paranormal investigators have identified several recurring entities. There is Jack, a mischievous spirit of a young boy who allegedly grabs visitors' hands or plays with their clothing. But there is also a much darker presence known as the Watcher, or Mister. Boots, a tall, aggressive shadow figure in heavy leather boots who is said to stalk the back chambers, shouting at people to get out of his space. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, there is an undeniable, heavy, chilling energy inside these stone walls. It's the residual weight of thousands of lives spent in absolute desperation. The South Bridge of Edinburgh was built to move the city forward into a bright, modern future. But in doing so, it accidentally created a dark world beneath it, a stark reminder of the hidden costs of human progress. The next time you walk down a historic street in any city, take a look down. You never know what stories are buried right beneath your feet. If you enjoyed this journey into the dark corners of urban history, make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment about which city we should explore next, and subscribe to StreetLore for more forgotten histories from the streets of the world. Until next time, keep exploring.